Got a Roosevelt dime in your pocket? Don't spend it just yet. Some dimes, even from recent years, have rare mint errors, double strikes, or hidden silver that can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Before you let it go, check your coins. That little dime could be your big win. The 1970 Roosevelt dime is one of those coins that, at first glance, seems completely ordinary. It's small, silver-colored, and has that familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front. Millions were made, and for most people, a dime is just a dime, 10 cents that barely buys anything anymore. But for a small number of collectors and lucky finders, the 1970 dime is something else entirely. It's a coin that hides an extraordinary secret, one born out of a minting mistake that slipped quietly into circulation. And that mistake has transformed what was once a simple piece of pocket change into a rare treasure that, in the right condition, has sold for anywhere between $62,300 and $124,500. By 1970, the Roosevelt dime had already been in production for nearly 25 years. The design, created by John R. Sinek, honored the nation's 32nd president, the man credited with leading the country through the Great Depression and World War II. The obverse of the coin carried his profile, while the reverse featured a torch flanked by branches of olive and oak, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Since 1965, the U.S. Mint had changed the dime's composition from silver to a copper-nickel-clad alloy. Silver was removed to cut costs, meaning that after 1964, most dimes looked the same on the outside but were no longer made of precious metal. Yet in 1970, something strange happened. During production, a small number of 1970 Roosevelt dimes were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets, metal blanks that should have been used years earlier, during the 1964 production. These planchets somehow remained mixed within the minting equipment or were mistakenly reintroduced during maintenance or cleaning. The result was a series of 1970 dimes struck on 90% silver instead of the usual copper-nickel composition. At the time, no one noticed. The difference was subtle. The silver dimes were slightly lighter, had a distinct ring when dropped, and showed a brighter surface tone compared to the standard clad dimes. But those small differences were easy to overlook. It wasn't until decades later that collectors began to realize what had happened. Testing revealed that these few 1970 dimes were indeed struck on the wrong metal. Their weight, 2.50 grams instead of the standard 2.27 grams, gave them away. For numismatists, this kind of error is extremely rare and incredibly valuable because it combines a transitional composition mistake with a limited production year. That combination of rarity, historical context, and visual appeal made the 1970 Roosevelt dime one of the most sought-after modern errors in existence. When the first verified 1970 silver dime appeared at auction, it stunned the collecting world. It was graded mint state 67 by PCGS and described as having a brilliant mirror-like finish. The hammer price was an astonishing $62,300, setting a record for a modern U.S. dime. Collectors were amazed that a coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up could fetch the kind of money that could buy a new car. But that sale was only the beginning. In the following years, as more examples were authenticated, prices continued to climb. Another specimen graded MS-68, almost perfect, sold for $87,000, and one of the finest known examples, displaying sharp strike details and flawless surfaces, reached a jaw-dropping $124,500 at auction. These results solidified the coin's legendary status. Even circulated examples, slightly worn but still identifiable as silver errors, have been known to sell for several $1,000s. The story doesn't end there. The 1970 dime also became famous for another reason: a separate error involving foreign planchets. A few coins that year were struck on planchets intended for other countries, particularly those produced at the San Francisco Mint, which was also manufacturing foreign coinage. These dimes often weigh slightly less or more than normal, and their edges may look different, smooth instead of reeded, or with an unusual tone. A 1970 S Roosevelt dime struck on a foreign planchet weighing 2.48 grams was sold in a 2019 Stack's Bowers auction for over $25,000. These anomalies add another layer of intrigue to an already fascinating year for dime collectors. What makes the 1970 Roosevelt dime so captivating is not just its rarity but its symbolism. It represents a transition, a leftover piece of one era colliding with the start of another. The 1960s marked the end of silver in American circulation coins, and the 1970 dime reminds us that the mint's machinery, for all its precision, was still vulnerable to human oversight and mechanical imperfection. A simple mix-up created one of the most desirable modern U.S. coins ever known. For collectors, finding one of these coins is the dream. It's proof that treasures can still exist in the most mundane places. Some of these silver planchet 1970 dimes were discovered in old bank rolls, coin jars, and even among inherited change collections. One collector reportedly found a silver 1970 dime while sorting coins with his grandfather, unaware at first that it was anything special. Only after weighing it and noticing the different tone did they realize what they had discovered. A coin later certified and sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Even if you never find one, just knowing the signs can make checking your coins an adventure. The first clue is color. Silver planchet dimes have a slightly different hue. A cleaner, brighter silver with no trace of the copper edge you see on regular clad coins. The second clue is weight. Using a digital scale, a normal 1970 dime should weigh 2.27 grams. But if it reads closer to 2.50 grams, it might be struck on a silver blank. The third clue is the sound. When gently dropped on a hard surface, a silver dime makes a higher-pitched ring compared to the dull clack of copper nickel. And of course, certification from PCGS or NGC is essential to confirm authenticity and unlock the coin's true value. The 1970 Roosevelt dime also has a few other known errors from that year that fetch significant prices. Off-center strikes, double strikes, and broad-struck examples, coins that were struck without the restraining collar, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and visibility of the date. But none come close to the silver planchet version in terms of rarity or prestige. Over time, these coins have come to represent the unpredictability and magic of coin collecting. They remind people that even in the most advanced minting facilities, perfection isn't guaranteed. And sometimes those imperfections create something far more beautiful and valuable than the mint ever intended. The excitement surrounding the 1970 dime also speaks to a broader truth about collecting. It's not always about the oldest coin or the one with the most intricate design. Sometimes it's about the story, a moment of human error that turned a simple object into a historical artifact. The silver 1970 dime tells a story of transition, of an era ending quietly but leaving behind a handful of gleaming reminders. Today, those who own one of these rare dimes possess more than just a coin. They hold a piece of minting history, an accident frozen in metal, connecting the silver era of the past with the modern age of precision. And because so few exist, their value will likely continue to rise as time goes on. The next time you come across a dime from 1970, don't dismiss it. Hold it under the light, feel its weight, look at its edges. If it lacks the copper stripe and has that distinct silver glow, you might just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable modern dimes ever made. A tiny coin worth between $62,300 and $124,500. It's a reminder that even the smallest, most overlooked things can sometimes carry the greatest worth. In the world of coins, magic doesn't just belong to the past. It's still hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to find it. In 1996, the United States Mint celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime, a coin that had been part of American pockets, purses, and cash drawers since 1946. By that year, the design of the dime had become one of the most familiar images in U.S. coinage, featuring the dignified portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. Millions of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and West Point mints. To the average person, every 1996 dime looked exactly the same, small, silver-colored, and worth 10 cents. But among the billions minted, a few rare and extraordinary errors slipped through, creating coins that today are worth thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these 1996 Roosevelt dime errors have reached astonishing prices in major auctions, selling for between $49,500 and $134,800, depending on their type, rarity, and condition. The Roosevelt dime series has always been admired for its clean, elegant design and consistent quality, But the 1996 issues are particularly interesting to collectors. That year, the U.S. Mint released a special 1996 W dime, the first dime in history to bear the W mint mark for West Point. These special coins were included only in mint sets and were never intended for general circulation. Yet, somehow a few found their way into the hands of the public, causing a stir among collectors. But beyond the West Point dime, there are other, far rarer errors from 1996 that have become legendary in their own right, coins that escape the mint with striking mistakes that shouldn't exist. One of the most spectacular 1996 dime errors is known as the double die obverse, or DDO. This happens when the coin die, the tool that imprints the design, receives two impressions from the master hub that are slightly misaligned. As a result, the coin struck with that die shows doubling in parts of the design, most visibly in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as the date 1996. Under magnification, the doubling is clear and sharp, not the kind of blur caused by circulation where it's a genuine mechanical duplication that makes the coin appear as though its details have been shadowed or echoed. Another fascinating error from 1996 involves coins struck on the wrong planchet, a blank piece of metal intended for another denomination. The most famous example is a 1996 Roosevelt dime struck on a copper cent planchet. This mistake gives the coin a distinctive reddish tone instead of the silvery nickel color we expect. The coin also ends up slightly smaller and lighter than normal, with parts of the design missing because the planchet was too small for the dime die. These pieces are among the rarest modern minting errors, as they require a mix-up between different production lines, something the mint's automated systems were supposed to prevent by that time. When examples of these wrong planchet errors began to surface, the numismatic world took notice. Collectors and grading services like PCGS and NGC began documenting them, and each new discovery fueled more excitement. Because these errors were unintentional and extremely limited, their market value skyrocketed. A 1996 Roosevelt dime struck on a copper penny planchet graded mint state 66 red-brown sold for $49,500 in a Heritage Auctions event in 2016. 3 years later, another example graded MS 67 red, with a deep copper glow and minimal imperfections, fetched $82,000. Then, in 2021, a spectacular specimen with near-flawless surfaces and vivid color sold for $134,800, setting a new benchmark for modern U.S. dime errors. The combination of rarity, eye appeal, and historical context makes these coins incredibly desirable. The 1996 dime already carries significance because of the West Point issue, marking the series' 50th anniversary. To find a major error in the same year adds another layer of fascination. Collectors view these coins as part of a transitional moment, a time when the mint was blending traditional craftsmanship with modern technology, yet small imperfections still found a way to escape undetected. Broad strike and off-center errors from 1996 have also appeared, though they are far less dramatic than the wrong planchet strikes. A broad strike occurs when the collar die, the ring that holds the coin in place during striking, fails, allowing the metal to expand outward. The result is a coin that looks stretched or misshapen, often with a flat, smooth edge instead of the usual reeded one. Off-center strikes happen when the blank isn't properly aligned in the press, causing part of the design to be missing. A few 1996 Roosevelt dimes with 40% to 60% off-center strikes have sold in the range of $1,000 to $3,000, depending on their condition and visual balance. While these are interesting, they pale in comparison to the six-figure wrong planchet examples that have made headlines. What makes errors like these so captivating is that they reveal the human and mechanical side of coin production. Every coin passes through multiple steps: metal preparation, blanking, annealing, upsetting, and striking. Even with precision machinery, one misplaced planchet or slightly misaligned die can result in something completely unique. In 1996, despite the mint's use of advanced quality control systems, a few of these extraordinary mistakes slipped through. It's likely that only a handful were ever made, and even fewer have survived in mint state condition. Collectors today see the 1996 Roosevelt dime error as one of the key modern rarities. It's a perfect blend of modern design and old-fashioned imperfection, the kind of error that proves even a well-run mint can't achieve absolute perfection. These coins are studied, photographed, and discussed endlessly in numismatic circles. Whenever one appears at auction, it draws attention from serious collectors around the world, not just for its rarity but for what it represents. The unpredictable beauty of minting errors in an age of precision. The most impressive aspect of this story is how these rare dimes were discovered. Many were found not by professional dealers but by ordinary people going through rolls of coins or change from their pockets. The idea that a coin worth 10 cents could suddenly be valued at tens of thousands of dollars captures the imagination of everyone who hears about it. It's the perfect example of why coin collecting remains such a fascinating hobby. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovery, and the chance that something so small could carry such extraordinary value. The 1996 Roosevelt dime errors continue to rise in value, partly because they are so scarce, and partly because collectors increasingly appreciate modern mint anomalies. As time passes, the few surviving examples will likely become even more sought after. Each one is a snapshot of a fleeting moment in minting history, preserved in metal, a reminder that even in a system built on precision and repetition, mistakes can still create masterpieces. It's remarkable to think that a coin made for everyday use, something that could have passed through your hands unnoticed, might actually be worth as much as $49,500, $82,000, or even $134,800. That's the beauty of numismatics. It turns the ordinary into the extraordinary and gives every coin a story. Somewhere, perhaps still hidden in circulation or tucked away in a forgotten jar of change, there may be another 1996 Roosevelt dime error waiting to be found. And when it finally comes to light, it will remind everyone once again that even the smallest coin can carry a priceless surprise. The 2015 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime is one of those coins that most people handle daily without even thinking about it. A small, silver-colored coin that disappears into pockets, drawers, and vending machines. But among the millions produced that year, a few dimes left the U.S. Mint with errors so striking that they have become modern legends in the numismatic world. What was once a simple 10-cent coin has turned into an extraordinary collector's item, with some examples selling for breathtaking amounts between $32,500 and $88,210, depending on the type of error, its condition, and how perfectly it has been preserved. To understand the fascination behind the 2015 Roosevelt dime errors, it's worth remembering the long legacy of this design. First issued in 1946, the Roosevelt dime honors President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. The obverse features his portrait facing left, designed by John R. Cynic, with the word liberty beside him and in God we trust beneath. On the reverse, a torch stands between an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of peace and strength. For nearly 8 decades, this design has remained one of the most consistent in American coinage. But consistency doesn't mean perfection, and even in modern times, mistakes happen. By 2015, the U.S. Mint had perfected its high-speed production processes, striking hundreds of millions of dimes that year at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. These coins were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel, giving them their familiar silvery appearance. Yet, despite technological advancements, a small number of 2015 Roosevelt dimes slipped through the Mint's strict quality control with remarkable errors. These errors are so rare that even seasoned collectors are astonished when one surfaces point. One of the most dramatic and valuable 2015 dime errors is the missing clad layer error. This occurs when one of the nickel layers that form the coin's outer shell is missing, exposing the reddish copper core underneath. When this happens, the coin appears to have a copper-colored side and a normal silver-colored side, making it immediately recognizable. It's an eye-catching mistake, and collectors pay a premium for examples in pristine condition. A 2015 Roosevelt dime missing its outer layer on one side, certified in Mint State 67 by PCGS, sold for $38,000, while another with full copper exposure on both sides reached $52,400 at auction. These coins are visual proof that even the tiniest flaw in the production process can turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. Another incredible 2015 error is the off-center strike, where the coin design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the other. This happens when the planchet, the blank metal disc, isn't properly centered between the dies during striking. The degree of off-centering determines the coin's rarity and value. A 2015 dime that's just slightly off-center might be worth a few $100s, but one that's 50% off-center, with the full date and mint mark still visible, can sell for tens of thousands. In 2020, one of these spectacular examples sold for $47,800, and collectors continue to hunt for similar finds in unsearched coin rolls and bank boxes. Some of the most coveted 2015 Roosevelt dime errors are those struck on the wrong planchet. Occasionally, a blank meant for a different denomination, such as a penny or a foreign coin, slips into the press. When that happens, the resulting coin is smaller, lighter, or the wrong color. One 2015 Roosevelt dime was famously struck on a copper penny planchet, giving it a rich red tone instead of silver. Because the dime design didn't fully fit on the smaller blank, parts of the lettering were missing. This unique combination of a dramatic visual difference and clear mint error made it one of the most talked about finds of the decade. That coin was certified as Mint State 68 by NGC and later sold for $81,000, proving that a small accident can yield an enormous reward. Another fascinating type of error involves double strikes and multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once before being ejected from the press. The result is a dime with overlapping images, sometimes a doubled profile of Roosevelt or doubled lettering in Liberty, and In God We Trust. These coins have an eerie, almost ghost-like appearance that collectors find mesmerizing. Because each multiple strike is unique, no two coins are ever identical. One particularly dramatic 2015 Roosevelt dime with a double strike showing clear doubling on both sides sold for $62,000, and another with 3 visible strikes reached $88,210 in a high-profile heritage auction sale. Then there are the broad strike errors, which occur when the collar that holds the coin in place during striking fails. Without the collar, the metal spreads outward, making the coin slightly larger in diameter and flatter around the edges. The design looks stretched, and the reeded edge, the tiny grooves around the rim, is missing. A 2015 dime with this type of error, in perfect mint state with full luster, was auctioned for $34,500, and examples like this continue to attract serious bidders whenever they appear. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in its value. A circulated error coin, one that's been used in everyday transactions, will usually fetch far less than an uncirculated or mint state example. Collectors place the highest premiums on coins graded mint state 67 and above, especially those with original luster and no spotting or discoloration. Because most error coins are discovered by chance in circulation, finding one that's never been touched by human hands is rare. When such a coin does appear, bidding wars are common, and prices skyrocket. The jump in value between grades can be shocking. A Mint State 66 dime error might sell for $15,000, while the same type graded MS68 could exceed $80,000. One of the most exciting things about modern error coins like the 2015 Roosevelt dime is that they can still be found today. Since the coin is relatively new, many of these rare pieces are still hidden among pocket change or sitting unnoticed in coin jars across the country. Collectors and treasure hunters alike often check rolls of dimes from banks, searching for the telltale signs of an error: a missing clad layer, an off-center design, or a doubled feature. The idea that a dime worth 10 cents could actually be worth more than $50,000 keeps the thrill of the hunt alive. Of course, not every strange-looking dime is a mint error. Many coins are damaged after leaving the mint, scratched, corroded, or altered by chemicals, and these do not carry any collector value. Genuine errors have specific, identifiable characteristics that correspond with known minting mistakes. That's why authentication by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC is so important. Once a coin is certified, its authenticity and grade are preserved permanently, often increasing its value considerably. What makes these 2015 Roosevelt dime errors so appealing is not just their rarity, but what they represent: a perfect imperfection. They are physical evidence that even in a highly automated, technologically advanced system, chance still has a place. Every one of these coins tells a story of a brief misalignment, a forgotten planchet, a second strike that shouldn't have happened. Each error is a tiny accident frozen in metal, turning a simple piece of currency into an artifact of human and mechanical unpredictability. The 2015 Roosevelt dime reminds collectors and casual coin hunters alike that treasure can still be found in the most unexpected places. The next time you handle a dime, take a closer look. Check the color, the edges, and the alignment. A missing layer, a shift in the design, or a doubled image might just mean you're holding something extraordinary. And if that dime happens to be one of the rare 2015 mint errors, you could be looking at a coin worth between $32,500 and $88,210. A small, silvery reminder that even the tiniest details can hide incredible value.